Good afternoon and welcome to an introduction with DriveWorks. This is the fourth webinar to be brought to you this year by the South Lancashire IMechE Young Members Panel. We have Bridie Mills, the Head of Community and Business Development, and Oliver Basmelo, the Technical Specialist, with us today to introduce you to their software and company. Any questions you may have throughout the webinar can be sent through and will be answered during the Q&A. I'll now pass you over to Bridie to start the webinar.
Thanks very much, Catherine, and thanks very much to both Catherine and Fiona and everyone at the South Lancashire IMechE for having us speak with you today. So as Catherine said, I'm Bridie and I work in Community and Business Development at DriveWorks, and I'm joined by my colleague Oliver, who is a technical specialist. And like I said, we're going to talk to you a bit more about DriveWorks. So I can see that's us there. So today, what is DriveWorks is to sort of start off, just give you an introduction to us, the company, and to the software. Then we want to demonstrate how the software is actually used by companies around the world. Moving on to how you could actually yourselves benefit from using DriveWorks Express, which is the free design automation tool included inside every license of SOLIDWORKS. And to do this, Oliver will be doing a live demonstration of DriveWorks Express inside SOLIDWORKS. And then we're going to end on looking a bit more about how you can actually become certified in the software. And then if you've got any questions at the end, we'll be available for a live Q&A. So before we begin, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about DriveWorks and us as a company. So we were actually founded in 2001. So we've been around for 19 years now. It was nice to celebrate our 18th birthday last year. And we actually are based in Warrington, which is just between Manchester and Liverpool, but we actually sell our software globally around the world via the SOLIDWORKS reseller channel. And all three levels of our software, which Oliver will go into a bit further on, are actually gold certified products of SOLIDWORKS, so we work very closely with the software. We have different customers in a variety of different sort of manufacturing industries around the world, predominantly in the US, because that's where SOLIDWORKS is founded. And we do also actually work quite closely as we're a Microsoft Silver partner. And we were very proud to win 2 Queen's Awards last year for Enterprise in Innovation and International Trade. So that was just a bit more of an introduction to us as a company. So now I'm going to pass you over to Oliver, and he's going to take over now and tell you a bit more about DriveWorks, the software.
Thanks very much. I hope you can all hear me okay, and thank you very much, Bridie and Catherine, for giving us a nice introduction. So what you've all come here today to learn is what is DriveWorks and how it can benefit me. So we'll start off with what is DriveWorks. So DriveWorks is a tool that you can use to help you work a little smarter and a little better. And that tool is a piece of software that allows you to automate your designs in terms of your SOLIDWORKS models. So automating, the production of brand new manufacturing data in terms of your SOLIDWORKS models. And in addition to that, we need a way to tell DriveWorks how you want the models to be created. So in addition to that core of our business and our software that does design automation, you can also use DriveWorks to build your online configurator and manage those orders. So you maybe think about when you go and specify the type of car you want, you often use a configurator in a browser. Using our top level of software, you can actually build that tool yourself and allow people to specify the exact products they want, but still in the back end, you can do all of the design automation, so taking those custom inputs and generating brand new manufacturing data custom to those specifications. But that, like I said, that's our top level software, and we're going to be focusing on design automation today, how you, as soon as we finish this webinar, can go away and get stuck into DriveWorks and start working smarter. So when we talk about design automation with DriveWorks, we talk about this term same but different. Design automation for same but different designs. So DriveWorks works with any SOLIDWORKS models, but the type of models it's most suited to are things that are same but different. What does that mean? That means things like pressure vessels here, or windows and doors, shelving units, cabinets, things that are often look the same when you go around your town or go around the country. They look the same, but there's variations in their design. So if we focus on this pressure vessel, what are the variations? We've got dimensions that will change depending on customer requirements. We might have the type of material used to manufacture the vessel, depending on the type of fluid it's going to be holding, and different fixtures and features and so on that make this custom to a specific job. Now, to talk about what DriveWorks can do, I always think the best place to start is by looking at the entire manual process. How does a custom pressure vessel go from the things that I want into actually getting that design out the door? And remember, this is universal. You can use it on any SOLIDWORKS models. This is just an example. So how might we start? We might start by a salesperson going out to someone that needs a new pressure vessel and deciding what the requirements of that are and filling out a specification sheet. It might be manual, it might be some custom software that does it, or it might be online, it might be a Google form or something like that. And they'll go through, they'll get where it needs to go, they'll get what it needs to do, they'll get the dimensions that it needs to fit in, and they'll get all of this and they'll take it back to a SOLIDWORKS engineer to go and start creating the manufacturing data. So this might land on someone like yourselves' desk, and you have to go through this manual process. So often with these same but different type of designs, we start with a template. So here we've got a pressure vessel template. This is just one that we always start from. We go and take a copy of that. So in terms of SOLIDWORKS, it might be a pack and go, or you might just copy all of these files. So we're working with a brand new data set. And now the process comes of customizing it to fit in with the customer specification. So we'll go and open each part inside that overall assembly. We'll go through and change the parameters so it meets the customer's requirements. So here we're changing a dimension. That might be something that's specified on that spec sheet, or it might be the type of thing that's got a bit of intelligence built into it. You might have specified, okay, I want my pressure vessel to be to have a 1,000 millimeter diameter. You might know that the frame actually needs to be 1,000 plus 200 for whatever reason. The specified amount of diameter, the frame height to fit in the pressure vessel needs to add 200 millimeters to that always. And that's the type of design knowledge that's in your head, and you'll go through and you'll change all the dimensions to meet those customer requirements. Maybe after you've done your dimensions, you'll go in and change your features, turning them on and off, maybe creating new ones, editing the parameters inside each of those features to make sure that the models that you're creating fit in with that custom specification that we talked about at the start. Now, when we've got our kind of geometry sorted out, we might go and change the materials to make sure it's suitable for that job. Again, might be a bit of your design engineering knowledge. You know that if it's holding a certain type of liquid, then it needs to be a certain material, so it's valid, basically. And that might be in your head. And you go through and select that manually. Go through and add all the metadata you need, so your order numbers, your material, when it needs to be manufactured by, when it was ordered, and you go and type all of that in manually. And there's only a few there, but you might have a lot of metadata with each of your parts. That can actually take quite a long time, as I'm sure you know. Then after you've made all of those changes, you're ready to save your part, and save your part with your company's naming convention. So that might be, as you can see on screen, or it might be a different serialized naming convention. And that's all done manually, and it can be quite difficult to get right sometimes. So once you've done that, you go through all the other parts, you do the same process for all the other parts, and you're left with your unique assembly that meets the customer's requirements. And then you go and actually create your manufacturing data, your drawing, save that as a PDF, send it off to the shop floor. And you've done that whole manual process of creating a same but different design. So what DriveWorks does is automates that entire process. So we're going to watch a little video now. I think the sound might be quite loud, so what I'm going to do is explain what the video is and then play it, just so I don't have to talk over you at all. This video is going to show you what that process looks like in DriveWorks. So I'm just going to hit play now. You won't hear me speaking for a second, and then I'll recap once the video has ended. So hopefully you can hear me. But here we've got, instead of that spec sheet, we're filling in a custom form on the right-hand side. This is inside SolidWorks. We're filling in that custom form to meet those customer requirements. And we're getting a bit of dynamic updating there, might be minimum and maximum values to ensure those inputs are valid. And then when we're happy with those inputs, we're going to hit finish. What finish does is take a copy of that template automatically, drives it all the different dimensions, features, custom properties that need to be created, and goes and creates your drawing at the end for that custom, same but different design. And that's what you can build, that project that does that using DriveWorks. And once you've built it yourselves, you can run that over and over and over again. So that's just a quick video showing you exactly how this process works inside DriveWorks. So hopefully you got a little bit of that. That video is actually available on YouTube. So for anyone that wants to go and view it in their own time, DriveWorks, Solo, and Pressure Vessel, type that into YouTube, and you'll be able to go and view the entire video. So now we've seen the process, what DriveWorks is, we've seen the process it automates, and we've taken a look at what DriveWorks looks like in action, actually automatically doing all of that. We need to know how it works. So there's 4 steps to automation when we're talking about DriveWorks, to our design automation. The first step we do, you can see it on the left-hand side of your screens. We capture our design parameters. And what that means is we take our template that we're currently having to manually do all the time. We take that template and we capture it. So we tell DriveWorks, I want to create new versions of this. That's what we call capturing. And inside each part inside that assembly, we tell DriveWorks, I want to change this dimension in the new versions of this file that I want to create. I want to be able to change this feature in the new versions of this file that I want to create. And we go through all of our parts and tell DriveWorks what might change. That we call that capturing, the capturing process. The next bit is to build that input form so we can get the users custom values off them, their custom inputs, and make sure that they're valid, so putting things like minimums and maximums, guiding users through that specification process. And they're the first 2 steps, so the kind of capturing bit, telling DriveWorks what might change, creating an input form, allowing users to specify new products. The next bit is writing rules. So that's the bit that links those 2 together. So you might have an input form, and on that input form, you might have a length value, and it might have a minimum and maximum of 1,000 and 2,000. We need to tell DriveWorks which one of those captured parameters it needs to be linked with. And the type of syntax it uses, it's not like code, it's just like Excel. We're all pretty familiar with Excel, but it's very similar to building formulas and equations inside Excel. So you can do things like take an input value, add 200, divide by 200, do if this, then that, type of intelligence. So building your design intelligence into your DriveWorks project using your DriveWorks rules. And then once you've done those 3 steps, your project's ready to go. The 4th step is running your project, creating brand new manufacturing data on demand very, very quickly. And that's how DriveWorks works. And we'll take a look in a little while at a live demonstration, and you can see that a whole project from the beginning to capturing, to creating an input form, linking them together using our rules, so you'll get a look at what that syntax looks like, and then we'll run the project all in the space of 10 or 15 minutes. But before we do that, we'll just have a run through the kind of how does this actually benefit? What are the benefits to doing this design automation to you as an engineer? So first of all, and the kind of obvious one, is speeding up that design process. So instead of having to go and manually change dimensions, manually change features, it's done on a click of a button. So all of that manufacturing data is created automatically, really reducing that design process and allowing us to ship out more products more quickly. Another benefit is one that might be overlooked a lot of the time, but eliminating avoidable mistakes. So a lot of the time, if you're doing the same but different designs, you might be going and changing that dimension, the same dimension in lots of different parts, and having to add a certain value to it. And it's quite easy to make a mistake there. In addition to that, it's when we looked at those custom properties, it's quite easy to enter incorrect metadata or even save it in the wrong place with the wrong name. I know I've named lots of things, copy one in brackets, one again, just to kind of get going with things. But building all that into a DriveWorks project means that we never have to do that. DriveWorks will go and name our files for us based on a set naming convention. And obviously, if we're generating more accurate manufacturing data, we're going to reduce those quoting mistakes as well. But my favorite benefit is this next one. It actually frees up your engineering time. Redoing same but different designs isn't using much engineering much of your engineering skill. And automating those processes allows you to actually work on new projects and develop existing products and automate more and more and more. And we'll see in a little bit of time, but the great thing about DriveWorks is the time you get back from using design automation with DriveWorks, you can automate more and more of your products. And we'll see what that means graphically in a little bit of time. So that's a kind of intro to DriveWorks. We've talked about what DriveWorks is. We've talked about the process that it actually automates and what that looks like and how it works. We've looked at some of the benefits, but I think it's time to start looking at the actual software, what you can get started with today. So that product is DriveWorks Express. As a SOLIDWORKS user, anyone with a seat of SOLIDWORKS or access to a seat of SOLIDWORKS also has access to our entry-level design automation tool, DriveWorks Express. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on today during this live demonstration, building a project from scratch, taking an assembly and automating it so that we can generate brand new versions of it automatically using DriveWorks. And this is our entry-level software. We'll talk about the other software that we offer later on, but let's just get on with the demo. So we're going to be automating this assembly. This is a mobile gantry type of assembly. And the things that change on that kind of, if we think to that spec sheet, let's put ourselves in the mind of a manufacturer or a design company that creates designs for this mobile gantry. We've got an opening height that changes. So that means this leg component will have to grow and get taller or smaller. We also want to be able to specify the opening width, so moving those legs apart and moving the beam and creating new versions of that beam with a different width. And we want to be able to change the safe working load. So we can see this value at the top. We've got a little badge which says SWL 1,000 kilograms. So we're going to have a few different safe working loads that we can automatically swap into depending on what someone specifies. So it's time to just jump over, and I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me a second. It's the first time I've used this software, so hopefully it won't be too painful. If we go to screen 2, come over here, and if I hit screen share now, I'll just wait for that to update. Yeah, looks like that's worked. You should be able to now see my SOLIDWORKS screen. So right now you can see that I've actually got my kind of template, the assembly that I'm going to capture open. And we can see that if we go over here to the feature tree, it's pretty simple, but this is just because we've not got too much time today. And I know how this has been put together very well, as you will know your own components, so you can do something similar to your own components with all that design knowledge. So in here, I've got 2 different components inside the assembly, the leg and the universal beam, and I've got 2 instances of my leg. So the first thing to do with DriveWorks is we need to go up to Tools, hit Express Products, and hit DriveWorks Express. Now that'll open in the task pane on the right-hand side, and that's how easy it is to open up DriveWorks Express. If you're a student, you'll be able to access that automatically. If you're not using a student version or an educational version of SOLIDWORKS, you'll need to activate DriveWorks Express. It's still free. You just need to go to My SOLIDWORKS and get the code from your My SOLIDWORKS account. And you can Google DriveWorks Express Activate to automate, and you should be able to get a step-by-step process. It's very simple, and you'll get to this point. So now DriveWorks Express is open, and I have my assembly open. The first thing I need to do is create a database. Okay, so what this is creating a place to save all of those decisions. So I need a place to save what I capture, where my rules are, what my forms are. This is what this database is. So in there, I'm just going to call it mobile country. Let's not do that. And hit open. And perfect. I've created a space to save all of my decisions. And the next thing I need to do is capture my first thing. My first thing is my top level assembly that I want to create new versions of. And DriveWorks Express is quite nice. And I can just hit use open model. As simple as that, I've captured the top level. I've told DriveWorks, using this project, I want to create new versions of this. The next step, and it's kind of laid out in a nice tabulated way, is I need to capture my assembly structure. So inside this assembly, which components do I want to create new versions of? In this instance, I actually want to create new versions of both, because my leg, when I need a different opening height, that needs to grow and get taller and smaller. And my universal beam, because it needs to get wider, and I want to change my safe working load as well. If we had standard components in there, that maybe something like hinges or feet that don't change size, don't change dimensions, and you just want to have them reference the same file that your master file does, your template file, then you don't need to check that box. This is just telling DriveWorks, I want to go and create new versions of this leg and this universal beam when I create new versions of the top level. So after I've done that, I don't need to capture anything else in the assembly, but I do need to capture different parameters inside my parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Captured Models tab, and you'll notice that it's updated. It doesn't just have mobile gantry, now it has the individual components that are inside the mobile gantry. So let's start off by just using the universal beam. So what I'm doing is double clicking on that, and that's opening it up inside SOLIDWORKS, independently of the assembly. And from here, I can capture what defines this part and what I want to change. So I'm going to go and hit Dimensions and Features, this tab down here. And this is specific to this part, so it's nice and easy to navigate. I know where I'm working. And like I said before, I know this component. So I know that if I double click on the right end, that's going to highlight this dimension, and that defines the opening width. So to tell DriveWorks I want to go and change this dimension, I simply graphically select it. You'll notice over here on the right-hand side, the address is updated. So that's the address, internal address inside SOLIDWORKS. So we know what to save it. We know what to drive when it comes to generating new versions of this. And then I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to give it something like opening width. And this is just reference for me. So when I build those rules later on, I know what to do. And hit add. In terms of features, I don't need to turn anything on and off inside this part, but I do want to be able to go and change the configuration it's in. If I look at this template file, you can see that we've got 3 different configurations: 1,000 kilograms, 1,500 kilograms, and 500 kilograms. That's what I'm going to swap in the new versions of this part, and I want the ability to do that. So that means I'm going to go down to my drawings and configurations and just check this radio button. Yes, allow me to create a rule to switch configurations. And as simple as that, I've actually captured everything I need to in my first part. So when I'm done with that, I can close it if I like. I'll just save that. That's just SOLIDWORKS saving. I've already told DriveWorks what I need to do. And then I've already saved all the capture parameters inside DriveWorks, because it's a database. You don't have to hit save, it just saves it automatically. And then I'm going to capture all the parameters inside my other part, my leg. So in here, like I said, I know this model quite well, in the same way that you'll know your model, so you'll know what to capture, what changes when you go and make all those manual changes for your same but different designs. So I've just selected the dimension that defines the opening height, and I'm just going to type in opening height there and hit add. And that's just going to tell DriveWorks I want to go and be able to change this value in the new versions of this file. Fantastic. So what else do I want to do here? I've not got any custom properties that I want to change here, but I do want to be able to change this inner diagonal feature. So I can simply graphically select it, and let's do it over here. And so you can just graphically select things, or you can select it from the feature tree as well. And that inner diagonal, I'm going to add it. So that's going to, I've captured that, and I can now, in the new versions of this, turn that on and off. And we could keep going. We could add drawings so that when I create new versions of this, we also create a drawing. But I'm not going to do that for now. I've told DriveWorks everything I want to be able to do with this, new versions of this part. So I'm just going to hit close on that, go back to my mobile gantry, and just add a general assembly drawing so that every time I create a new version of this, this model, I also create a new version of my drawing, which is really nice and saves me lots and lots of time. Inside DriveWorks Express, you don't get the ability to control that drawing much, things like scale and position of different views. So a bit of manual work is often required, but inside Solo and Pro are the next level up of this software, you can control all of that. So that's great, and we've done the first step. We've captured everything inside this assembly that we want to create new versions of, our mobile gantry, leg, and universal beam, and we've also captured everything inside those parts that we want to change. The next thing I'm going to do is go and build that user interface, build my forms, and this is really, really simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit add up there. You'll notice at the top bar, I've just clicked form. It's quite self-explanatory, capturing, form, rules, and that's how you navigate between the different sections of DriveWorks Express. Inside here, the first input I want is an order number. So hit order number in there, and we're actually going to use that order number for the file name rule. Okay, it's going to be required because we're going to use it for the file name rule. And as soon as I hit create, I've added that to my form, as simple as that. So when I go and run this, I've automatically made my form look this. For the mobile gantry project, it's going to ask me to put in an order number, and we've got this yellow triangle because I made it required. We have to enter a value in there before DriveWorks will let you run the project. I'm going to go back to the design and add a few more inputs. So one of them, if we remember back to that slide, we've got opening width. And if I go down here, I can select a different type of input. So I can go numeric text box. Maybe the minimum is 1500 and the maximum is 2500. And I hit create. As simple as that, I've created a form control. If I go into test mode, I can see what the forms will look like. I've created a form control with a bit of data validation so that I can't input incorrect values. I can see it needs to be filled in. I get a little bit of a tooltip saying it needs to be between 1500 and 2500. I'm going to go back to the design and add another one. So do you remember we had opening height as well? And if I go down here, numeric text box again, what are the parameters that I want to put in here? Maybe we'll put 2000 and 4000. You will know all of this information. What are the valid inputs, and you can work it out. So after we've added our order number, we know what we can save it with, and we've got an opening width and an opening height. I want to go back to my design and add that safe working load. So there's a few different types of control that you've got here in DriveWorks Express, of input basically. I'm going to use a drop down for this one because we've got those three different options: 500 kilograms, 1000 kilograms, or 1500 kilograms. So for my safe working load, I'm going to put my options down here. So I can type out as many as I want, but I'm just going to go with 500 kg, 1000 kg, and 1500 kg. And we're going to use that to swap the configuration of this universal beam part in the new versions of the file that we create. I'm going to hit create, and as simple as that, if I go into test mode, I can see that I've built up the form that I need to. So just for ease, and when I'm building the rules, you'll see why this helps. I'm going to go and put in some default values there. So the first default value, I'm just going to put order number 1, simple as that. And you'll see why in a second. For my opening width, I just want to show you the data validation. So if we put 500, you can see that that warning isn't going to go away. We're still being asked to put something between 1500 and 2500. Let's go right in the middle, and we'll put 2000. You can see that now that's a valid choice, and the warning goes away. We'll put 3000 in here. For my safe working load, let's choose 500 kilograms to start with. And now I've set those, I can set something as defaults. So every time we run the project, we've got something to work with, but it's also going to help us when we're building our rules and troubleshooting anything we need to. So let's take a look at the next step. We've done the capturing. We've built a user the way that this project can work, and we can enter new values and specify new products. Now we need to link the two together, and that's in our next section. That's in our rules. So if I click on rules, the little equation kind of reminds me a bit of Excel, and the syntax is very similar to Excel. I'm offered all the rules that I need to build. The DriveWorks Express is quite nice, and it tells you, okay, we've got 7 rules missing, and it's not actually going to let us go and run our project until we've actually built all the rules that are required, which is kind of nice and handy. What I'm going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is build my file names. So this is one of the processes that DriveWorks will manually go and do for you. For my file name rule, what I'm going to do is just give it the order number. So what I've done there, I'm just going to recap that. I've got all these different rules that we can build. I just want to build file name rules to begin with. So I've checked the box that corresponds with file names. I've hit edit rules. And then those 3 different file names that I've got to build for my mobile gantry, so the overall assembly, and each component in there, the leg and the universal beam, I can then go and build rules for. So these are going to be really simple to start off with, but I'm going to select the mobile gantry, going to hit build, and that's opened up the DriveWorks rules builder for the first time. So I'll try and move this so you can see everything nice and easily, increase the font size, so hopefully that gives you a better look. And this DriveWorks Rules Builder, Express Rules Builder, is there to help you build your intelligence and link your inputs to your capture parameters. So you'll see up here, this white section is where we actually build the rule, the syntax we can type out in here. We don't want to do that right now. What we want to do is take one of our inputs, so that order number input, and we want to create our new files with that order number appended onto the end of it. So what this is going to do, we're building it for the mobile gantry. When we run this project, we're going to create a new version of the mobile gantry, and we're going to save it with the file name mobile gantry 1. Okay, we can see that that's why I set some defaults, so we can see what this is going to result in now. So I'm going to hit OK. And we can multi-select to make things quicker. Just for ease, I'm going to build the same rule. But in here, we can build in all that intelligence, so we don't have to manually type out a file name rule anymore. We can take parameters that people are inputting and save out our file names with those names. And we'll go in and we'll take a look at more in-depth rules in a second. I'm just going to use my order number again. What's great is that all around the DriveWorks Express Rules Builder, wherever you are, you get a little bit of help. So here it says file name rules specify text to be appended to the original file name. Great. If I've not used DriveWorks Express for a little while, or maybe you go on this and you kind of can't remember exactly how I said this worked, you've got a little bit of help there, so you should be able to get going nice and quick. Now I'm going to hit OK. And you can see that everything's disappeared from this list because I've built rules for all the file names I need to. I can go and see all the missing ones I've built if I want to go back and change anything. So that's a great thing about a DriveWorks project. You own it. It's nice and easy to use. There's a good user interface in the background, so you can go and change and develop your project as it grows. I'm going to go back to my summary, and we can see that, great, so there's 3 missing rules for my file names. That's gone down to 0. And I'm going to uncheck that and go down to my configurations. So you remember this was the captured configuration for my universal beam. Okay. Want to build a rule for this, and because my configurations of this part match exactly the inputs for my safe working load, great, because I've set those defaults, we've got a result. We can see that there. I can simply build a really simple rule, taking input and directly linking it with something that I've captured. And again, we've got that helper text down there, so you can use it to help you build slightly more complex rules. I'm going to go back. And now we built our configuration rules. Remember, I didn't capture any custom properties, but it's very easy to do. Just go back to the capture pane, decide on any custom properties inside each of these, capture them, and you can drive any text you want into them in the new versions of the parts. The next thing I'm going to do is build my dimensions. So if I edit those rules, I've got 2 because I captured the opening height of the leg and the opening width with the universal beam. I'm going to go and hit build here. Opens up the DriveWorks Express Rules Builder. And inside here, I'm going to link it to my opening height. So I've got about 3,000 result there. Now, it might not be as simple as just linking it. This is a quick demo, so it is. But you might want to do some maths in there. So you might want to plus 200 to the value that someone's inputting. You want to drive that capture parameter with that. Or go back. You might want to divide by something or times by something or subtract something from the value that someone's entering, or take two different values that people are entering and add them together or multiply them together. You can do all of that using the DriveWorks Rules Builder and build in your engineering knowledge into your DriveWorks rules. So I'm just going to have it as opening height. That's great. If I hit build and I go to my opening width, just link that up and that's done perfect. So I built all my dimension rules as well, and we've got one final rule to build, and it's this feature. So here's where we're going to look at slightly more complex rules. So remember, I captured this inner diagonal, so this part of the leg component. And what I want to do is turn this on and off depending on what a user inputs. So what does that mean? Let's go and have a look. So when a user specifies a value over 2,200 for the opening width, I want to include it. I want it to be there in the versions of the leg that I create. When it's below that, it doesn't need that in inner diagonal support, and we can get rid of it. So great. I've got to start using some logic inside my DriveWorks Express rules. So here is where you'll start seeing it look a little bit more like Excel. So you can go down here and we've got our logical statements, our less thans, our greater thans, our equal tos, our does not equal. But down here I'm going to use this if function, okay? And we call this an if statement inside DriveWorks. And what this is made up of is three different parameters, and the first one being our condition. So our condition is going to be if our opening width is greater than, and you can just type in, you don't need to use the drop downs, but it helps. And you'll notice this has gone red, the background, because it's an invalid rule. So DriveWorks is kind of kind to you and helps you not build invalid rules. So when my opening width is greater than 2,200, then I want this to be unsuppressed. So I'm going to build a text string. All text strings are inside quotes. And what's perfect about this is my spelling isn't great, but we've got a bit of helper text down here to tell you what this rule should evaluate to. It should have either evaluate to delete, to remove it, suppress to suppress it, or unsuppress to unsuppress it and have it there. So when it's greater than 2200, I'm going to unsuppress, and if not, then I'm going to suppress, which is great. And at the moment, because my opening width is less than 2200, you'll see that my result is that it's going to be suppressed. This condition is false, so I'm going to go with the second option. And when it's true, it will go with the first option. Okay, so that's how we build some of that design intent and design intelligence into our DriveWorks rules, and we can start seeing that it's looking a little bit like Excel syntax. So I'm going to hit OK now and go back to the summary, and that's really good. We can actually see that we've built all the 7 rules that we need to. And we've done the first 3 steps. We've captured everything that might change. We've created an input form so we can enter new values into new custom values for the new product that we want to generate. And I've linked them together using rules, and we've even used a bit of intelligence building that if statement to say, if it's greater than 2200, if the opening width is greater than 2200, we need this feature. If not, we can suppress it. We don't need it. It isn't required. And we'll actually notice that this icon has turned green. So we're ready to do the 4th step. And it's the bit where you get back all of that time and we can go and run our project. So here, I've got my defaults. What I'm going to do is hit create here. And we could close everything right now. We don't need to, but we could close all these models. They don't need to be open. I'm just going to hit create. So what happens now is DriveWorks takes a copy of that initial template document that we had. And then it goes and opens all the different parts that it needs to and creates new versions of them and drives them with all the values that we need to. And then it's going to create our drawing as well for us. And we've got this report over here on the right-hand side, and that is showing us how this has worked and what's been successful. So everything's got a green tick apart from this. Sorry about that. Everything's got a green tick apart from it's been unable to switch the configuration to 500 kilograms. It does look like it's worked, so I'm going to go and take a look at that. It's likely that the universal beam is already in that configuration, which is why it couldn't swap it into it. But that's fine. It's just a warning. Go and check it. It's always good to check your models that have generated. That report's just there to highlight anything that might have gone wrong. We can see that because we put an opening width of 2000, less than 2200, we didn't get our inner diagonals. And we can see that if we open up our parts, you can see that these are brand new. We've got our mobile gantry space 1. We've got these named with these different file names. If I open up the parts, let's go and check them. Brand new part, just isn't linked to the template part anymore. We can see that that's been driven to 3000. Go back and save that. We'll keep changes in our assembly. We'll just go back to DriveWorks Express. And that's great. Let's go and run another one just so we can be sure. Inside order number, I'm going to put my name. Because this is text, this can just be anything. We could build proper rules, so we just filling out different inputs and putting them all together. We don't need to do that for this one. I want to have an internal diagonal support, so I'm going to put 2500 there, and maybe let's increase the size of this so it's a little taller to 3200. And change our safe working load to see if my guess of it already being in that 500 kilogram configuration was the cause for that error. When I hit create, we can now run our project as many times as we want. We're going to take copies of all of those template files again, create new versions of them, and save them out. Fantastic. So we can see that that's created a brand new assembly for us. It was, my hypothesis was kind of correct. So the universal beam was already in that 500 kilogram configuration. So changing it to the 1500 kilogram configuration has worked, and it's been successfully swapped in there. And we have our inner diagonals now because we've specified an opening width greater than 2200. So I hope that gives you a nice look at what it takes to go and build up a DriveWorks Express design automation project from the ground up and take an assembly from a normal SOLIDWORKS assembly to getting it inside a DriveWorks Express project and being able to automate it and create new versions of that whenever you need to. A great thing about DriveWorks Express is that we own that project now. So if I go back here and I click on that, I can change it. I know how it works. I know the rules that I've built. I know what I've captured. So I can go on and develop it as this product changes or as I want to automate more and more and more. So that's everything for that live demonstration. I hope that gives you a good look at how to do everything, but we'll be around afterwards for some questions. I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint, so bear with me a second just while I change over my screens. I'm just waiting for if I hit slides now. Great, so I'm back to the PowerPoint. So I hope that gave you a really good look at how we can go from normal assembly inside SOLIDWORKS to automating the generation of brand new manufacturing data using DriveWorks Express. And like I mentioned before, DriveWorks allows that business to evolve by getting back all of that time savings. And I think this is a really good way to illustrate what that looks like. So the goal is to reduce that design time from that manual process to automating it. But because you can go and change and develop your DriveWorks project as you gain more time back from automating small parts of it, you could just start by automating a single component and reduce the design time a little bit. Now, using that time that you've gained, maybe you then go and automate some of the sub-assemblies that we're creating, and then use that time back to start automating full assemblies. And then maybe move on to a different product. And because DriveWorks is built to be user-friendly, you can see that I understand how to capture things. I understand what is captured. Doesn't rely on any kind of custom code. The rules syntax is very similar to Excel, so it's easy to work with. You can own it and keep developing it as you go. So the DriveWorks product that we've looked at today in detail is DriveWorks Express. I'm just going to repeat that if you have access to a seat of SolidWorks, you already have access to start building a DriveWorks Express project. So you can get in there and start automating a very simple component today. Just start with a bracket or something like that just to try and work things out. And you already have access to that today. Now we have two other products, DriveWorks Solo, which allows you to do more powerful design automation. It allows you to have greater control over the drawings that you create. So if you need to change the scale of the drawing that you create, or you need to change the position of a view or turn a view on or off depending on what a user inputs, you can do all that using DriveWorks Solo. And you actually start to be able to generate documents outside of SolidWorks. So if you need a sales quote to go out or a bill of materials, and that sales quote is all built using a similar rules syntax to that you've already seen. So you can start reducing those quoting mistakes and have it all built into your DriveWorks rules. A great thing about DriveWorks Solo, and a bit similar to Express, is you could actually access it today if you have a seat of DriveWorks, access to a seat of SolidWorks. DriveWorks Solo, you can get a free 30-day trial, and that's a fully featured version of DriveWorks Solo, so you can download it and start having a go, and there's lots of online material to get you going nice and quick. And then our top-level software, so you remember at the start I mentioned about starting to build a configurator with DriveWorks that you can access through a browser, maybe something similar to when you go and configure a car online or configure a watch. You can build those type of configurators using DriveWorks Pro, and in addition to even more design automation, and you can start to build your own integrations with different databases and ERP systems and PLM systems, all inside DriveWorks. And if you want to see examples of the type of configurators that can be built using DriveWorks Pro, then you can just go to DriveWorksLive.com, and that's got all of our demo configurators that you can access there, run through, and even go out to the end and generate brand new manufacturing data based on your custom inputs. So if you're interested, go and have a look at that. But in terms of where I think you'll get most value following today's session, where can you go next? So I think a fantastic place to go is because you already have access to DriveWorks Express. We have a free certification that you can do, the Certified DriveWorks Express Associate Certification, and that includes having access to a training manual. So you can go through a training manual. It shows you how to take a cupboard, so it's slightly more complex than the assembly that we've automated today. Take that cupboard and take it from no automation whatsoever to a fully automated cupboard with lots of different parts inside of there and lots of different options. And then the certification involves you taking that cupboard and making a few modifications that we ask you to, and just making sure that you've got the knowledge and understand how DriveWorks Express is working. And then you get a certificate at the end of that and become certified using DriveWorks Express. So that's a great way to improve your knowledge, improve your CV, and take a look at what design automation can do for you. So I think we've come to the end of the kind of demonstration and the presentation. And I think we're going to open it up for some questions. So Bridie and myself will be around to answer some questions, and Catherine should be able to kind of ask them verbally. So you can just listen in. You don't have to read or type any responses to us.
Okay, hi. So the first question that I've got for you guys is, what kind of companies use DriveWorks?
Bridie, do you want to take that, or would you like me to take that?
Yeah, I can take. I can take this one. So DriveWorks is used by a lot of different companies around the world. So they start from sort of SME companies, so quite small manufacturing companies. You might create things like hatchbacks or trailers or things like that, and something quite small. Whereas they sort of then go to more big multinational companies. So Gillette actually used our software recently to create an online configurator for their razor handles, and allowing you to sort of customize the razor handle online. So it sort of shows that you can go from quite a small design automation project and then take it all the way up to the web. It does sort of lend itself to a lot of different companies, but I think in the first instance, it's definitely more sort of manufacturing-based companies creating those things like trailers, hatchbacks, shower units, furniture companies, things like that. It's quite universal in that sense. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add onto that, Ollie.
No. There is a question from Ian. He says, does design parameter capture accommodate for complex shapes, equation-driven curves, and surface models? In his third year, he created an anthropometric human body model that scaled between ages 5 and 18 with manual entries for every measurement and manually generating configurations for each one. When writing an interface with SOLIDWORKS, macros, etc., he wished that he knew about this before he sunk 100+ hours into it.
That's a kind of comment that we get a lot in terms of a lot of people have tried to do a lot of design automation. There's some great tools already built into SolidWorks, so that's things like design tables and equations, so you can make things change depending on different factors and kind of entering one value and getting lots of things to update. And similar to Ian's point, this process not only speeds up the creation of doing that and implementing it, but because it's obviously creating a SolidWorks macro uses the SolidWorks API, and things can change and things can break. So us as a software company, because this is what we do, we automate design automation. We test it and we make sure that you don't have to go and update any of your rules. If you've got a DriveWorks Express project that's 5 years old, you should be able to not use it inside SolidWorks 2015, open it up inside SolidWorks 2020, and you should be kind of good to go. In terms of his point about the kind of complex rules can get as complex or as simple as you want. You can see that inside DriveWorks Express, I was using very simple rules for the demonstration, but you can build in quite a lot of logic just using DriveWorks Express, using ifs and ands and ors. In terms of the specific functionality you mentioned that you might want to create, I'd probably recommend, if you're doing that type of thing, looking at something like at least DriveWorks Solo. So the reason for that is because inside DriveWorks Solo, you have access to not just those 6, 7, or 8 functions that I just mentioned. You have access to literally hundreds of different functions that will help you calculate the values you need depending on inputs and build that logic into your project. In addition to that, DriveWorks Solo also allows you to start working with tabulated data and using the type of like VLOOKUPs, filtering this table for certain values depending on a user input. So when you get to that type of rule, I think it's probably better to go and have a look at DriveWorks Solo. No harm in starting with DriveWorks Express and seeing what it can do for you. But saying that, actually thinking about one of our demonstration examples that we've got, it's extract-to-fan HUD, so not the exact same application. And you can access lots of sample projects that we build, so you can see how to build up a project of your own. That includes some pretty complex long rules, just using DriveWorks Express and working out a lot of quite difficult engineering values, just using the tool set you have inside DriveWorks Express. So it's really hard to answer your question fully, like specifically, Ian, because I don't know your product. It's great. You can build your own intelligence in because you know your product way better than I'll ever know your product. But basically, have a go and see where you get to with working it out inside DriveWorks Express, and then you've obviously got access to DriveWorks Solo, and that'll give you access to a lot more functions and access to working with tables.
Yeah, his next question was, can DriveWorks Express also change the parameters in assemblies, such as mate types, as well as traditional numeric values? So it's kind of like the same question a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's a really, really good question. Yes, you can change the parameters that define a mate. So if a distance changes or something like that. One of the other things you can do, and this is it's one of the limitations of DriveWorks Express, not being able to create those mates on the fly. Basically, one of the things you can do is kind of overload your model and overload your master model and put kind of everything it needs in there, and then deleting the mates that you don't need out, or something like that. One of the things you've got inside DriveWorks Pro, so that's our top level of software, actually allows you just to create an assembly on the fly. So you could start with a totally blank assembly, and depending on rules, insert all the components you need and create all the different types of mate. So in answer to Ian's question, you can change things like the value of a distance mate inside your DriveWorks Express assembly that you create, and you can capture different mates as features and turn them off. So you'd have to create kind of all the mates you needed, which would obviously be a bit problematic sometimes. But inside DriveWorks Pro, our top level of software, you can actually just create them on the fly. So that wouldn't be a limitation.
All right, thank you. Benjamin Sayers has asked, does DriveWorks use standard components, i.e. universal beams, or can you create your own geometries that you can then use within automated sequences?
Fantastic. So that was Benjamin, wasn't it?
Yeah. Good
question. So DriveWorks uses totally standard SolidWorks models. The mobile gantry that had that leg component, that universal beam part inside of it, was just an example. You could go and open your SolidWorks right now, create a cube. We've all created thousands of cubes just to test things out, and automate it in DriveWorks Express in 2 minutes. It's totally, you just capture normal SolidWorks models. There's nothing special about them. So yes, to your question, go and have a go.
Question from David Terry. Are you planning to expand DriveWorks to operate with Inventor or CATIA?
So DriveWorks, as a design automation tool, works only with SolidWorks. And that's because we want to focus our attention on being the best design automation tool. And to do that, we're just focusing on the CAD package that's most widely used by engineering companies around the world. So no, you can't use it with other CAD packages, and that's the reason why.
His next question was that he has developed designs using extensive calculations done in Excel. Can you input directly from these Excel calculations like you can when driving in through Inventor or Parametric? Sorry. I'll start that question again. I have developed designs using extensive calculations done in Excel. Can you input directly from these Excel calculations like you can when driving Inventor through Parametrics?
Cool. So that's a good question. So you've already done quite a lot of your design automation. You built your rules already in Excel. So the first thing we'd usually suggest is, in terms of rules, we would encourage them to be inside your DriveWorks project, inside your DriveWorks database. And the reason for that is because you remember when we ran through the mobile gantry and we got that report on the right-hand side and it told me it wasn't able to swap into that configuration, and we got all those other ticks. So because they're all DriveWorks rules, we have all of that reporting. That reporting only gets increases and reports in more depth as you move up the different versions of DriveWorks. So if you've got values calculating in an Excel file somewhere, we don't know. We don't know if it's right. Whereas when it's in DriveWorks, we do know if it's right. One of the other issues that we find with companies or with kind of design automation projects that use Excel, they're kind of great or can be great for kind of a single user environment. But once you start opening them up and making them kind of scalable to a multi-user environment, it can kind of go, it can be hard to keep this Excel file updated everywhere and the same. But having said that, because we listen to like market demands and what some companies want and how some companies work, we built tools not inside DriveWorks Express or DriveWorks Solo, but tools inside DriveWorks Pro that allow you to take values inputted into a form, into a DriveWorks form, and then maybe you've got an Excel file that does all your calculations. It allows you to drive an Excel file, get those calculations back, get the results back, and then drive your models with them. And so you do get a bit of the benefit of reporting. So in DriveWorks Express, you can't use them directly. Inside DriveWorks Solo, you can only work with kind of static tables. So if it had a load of tabulated data, you could work with that. But inside DriveWorks Pro, you get a lot more functionality to import values from different places. And the whole integration part of DriveWorks Pro comes into play there.
Benjamin has asked another question. Can you import parametric models from other toolkits for automated drawing package production?
I don't fully understand the question. Could you just repeat that for me, please?
Can you import parametric models from other toolkits like Rhino, Grasshopper for automated drawing package production?
I'm going to say no. Because I don't fully understand the question or the full use case. What I'd probably recommend is if you send an email in, Ben, just so I can work out, have a bit of time to actually put together a proper answer for you on that one.
Okay, and final question would be, how do you activate DriveWorks Express normally or through student access?
Great. So to access, for students, DriveWorks Express should already be active. You don't need to do anything. It should already be there in your student version of SolidWorks. You should just be able to go, like I did, up to Tools, then you go to Express Products, and DriveWorks Express should be sat there. You should be able to go and use it. If you, to activate it using a non-educational license, a kind of professional license, or an industry license rather, you go to Tools, go to Express Products, and if you hit DriveWorks Express, you should be prompted to go to and log into your my.solidworks account, I think it's called. And all you need to do there is log in. If you go through that process that I explained, then you should just be directed to the exact page. I think it says request code or something like that, and that all happens automatically. You get a code, you put it into SolidWorks, and now your DriveWorks Express is licensed, and you can use it. You don't have to do that every time. It's all there. If you're struggling to activate at all, just type in DriveWorks Express activate. I think we've got a good blog, kind of 5-step process in how to go and activate it. And in addition to that, I believe there's some YouTube videos that step through the process on screen, so you can just follow along with them. Hope that answers your question.
Well, I do have a question for Bridie. Ian has asked, as a final year student, he sees that DriveWorks does run internships and graduate schemes. How many of these positions are filled annually?
So, hi Ian. So yes, we do have both placements and graduate schemes. Oliver did join DriveWorks on a placement scheme, and then actually obviously came back in a graduate program and has now obviously gone through all of that. So he's a great use case of that. Obviously with everything going on at the moment, we've decided to just push our sort of application process to next year. So looking more into 2021 in January, whereas it usually be sort of recruiting this time of year. In technical roles, so mechanical engineers, product designers, we usually have about 3 or 4 placement students each year. And then the dev team sort of a separate one, and they're sort of a similar amount of numbers. And we do sort of take great pride in our placement schemes and our graduate schemes. So if you sort of wanted to join on one of those or find any more information out about it, head to our website. There's some more information about careers in general, and also an email address that you can contact, and that'll come straight through to sort of my email as well. And I'm also not sure if we can put our emails in here if you just wanted to ask me any sort of questions after this, because I know we're coming to the end of the session. So yeah, hopefully that's answered it a little bit better. But yeah, any other questions, just email them across.
Okay, brilliant. That looks like all the... Oh, sorry, one more. Ian just says, thanks for your time, and that it looks like an awesome product. Great way to end.
Thanks for watching, Ian.
Thanks,
really
Ian.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.